The diplomatic vessel. Harmony's grace hummed with the nervous energy of 100 different species attempting coexistence. Joyce Martinez stood in the communal supply bay, her human frame dwarfed by the towering Krellian warriors who lumbered past, their crystalline exoskeletons catching the artificial light in prismatic bursts. She'd been assigned to diplomatic duty for 6 months now. 6 months of careful words, measured gestures, and the constant awareness that humanity was still the newcomer, still the species under evaluation by the Galactic Coalition. One wrong move, one cultural misstep, and Earth's probationary membership could evaporate like morning dew. Joyce reached for a nutrition pack on a middle shelf when she heard it, a small, frustrated chittering sound. She turned to find a Velkin cub, no taller than her knee, stretching desperately toward a shelf 3 feet above its head. The small creature's fur rippled with distressed colors, blues and grays that Joyce had learned signaled confusion and sadness. Its tiny clawed hands grasped at empty air, and its tail twitched with increasing agitation. The cub's guardian, a massive Velkin warrior named Kreshak, stood across the bay in conversation with other soldiers, oblivious to the youngling's plight. The Velkins were a proud species, pack hunters who valued strength and independence above all else. Asking for help was considered a sign of weakness, something to be avoided even among cubs learning their place in the hierarchy. Joyce glanced around. No one else seemed to notice or care. The other species moved about their business with the practiced indifference of beings who understood the cultural boundaries they shouldn't cross. But Joyce saw the cub's distress. She saw the way its small body trembled, the way its ears flattened against its skull. And something in her, something fundamentally human, couldn't walk away. She approached slowly, crouching down to the cub's level. "Hey there, little one," she said softly, though she knew it couldn't understand English. "Need some help?" The cub's eyes, large and golden, fixed on her with a mixture of hope and fear. Joyce smiled and pointed to the shelf, then to the item the cub had been reaching for, a small container of what looked like crystallized treats. Understanding flickered across the small face. Joyce stood and easily retrieved the container, then knelt again to hand it to the cub. The little Velkin stared at the treat, then at Joyce, then back at the treat. Its fur began to shift through a rainbow of colors Joyce had never seen before, perhaps emotions the translators hadn't cataloged yet. The cub took the container with reverent care, chirped something that might have been gratitude, and scampered away toward its guardian. Joyce thought nothing more of it. She collected her own supplies and turned to leave, then stopped dead. Kreshak stood directly in her path, all 7 feet of predatory muscle and scarred hide. His eyes, so like the cub's but harder, older, fixed on her with an intensity that made her throat tighten. "Human Joyce," he rumbled, his translator rendering his words in crisp galactic standard. "You assisted the youngling." It wasn't a question. Joyce swallowed. Yes, it couldn't reach. In Velkin custom, to aid another's offspring without permission is to suggest the guardian is inadequate." Kreshak's tail swept behind him, a gesture Joyce couldn't interpret. "It is a grave insult." Her heart sank. 6 months of careful diplomacy, undone by a moment of human instinct. "I apologize, Warrior Kreshak. I meant no disrespect. I saw the cub struggling and I couldn't not help. That's not an excuse, I know, but—" "You misunderstand, human Joyce." Kreshak's scarred face shifted into what might have been a smile, though it showed far too many teeth. "I said it would be an insult. Had the cub been mine. Young Pixin belongs to Warrior Torval, who stands behind you." Joyce spun to find another Velkin warrior, this one female, watching her with tilted head. Torval's fur rippled with warm golds and ambers. "The human showed kindness to one who struggled," Torval said. Not because she was required, not because she would gain status, but because— She paused, searching for words. Because the cub was small and the shelf was tall. This is— Simple? Simple, Joyce agreed, relief flooding through her. Where I come from, we just help, especially children, any children. The two Velkins exchanged a glance that carried entire conversations Joyce couldn't parse. Then Kreshak did something unexpected. He called out in his native tongue, a series of barks and growls that carried through the supply bay. One by one, Velkin warriors emerged from their tasks, a dozen of them, then 20, forming a loose circle around Joyce. She felt her pulse quicken, acutely aware that any one of these beings could tear her apart without effort. Kreshak spoke again in Velkan, then switched to Standard for her benefit. Packkin, I present a question. When did any of us last notice when a cub struggled? When did we last pause our warrior's path to ease a youngling's simple burden? Silence answered him. We teach independence through trial, Torval added. We teach strength through struggle. These are our ways, and they have served for 10,000 seasons. She looked at Joyce. But perhaps there is strength also in the human way, in the noticing, in the caring for those who cannot yet reach the high shelves. Adam Chen, Joyce's fellow human diplomat, appeared at the edge of the gathering, his eyes wide with concern. Joyce gave him a subtle gesture. I'm okay. Wait. Kreshak approached her again, and this time he slowly, deliberately, lowered himself to one knee, bringing his eyes level with hers. Human Joyce, would you teach us your custom? Show us this? Simple help? Over the next hour, something remarkable unfolded in the supply bay of the Harmony's Grace. Joyce demonstrated what came naturally to every human child, seeing a need and filling it without calculation or expectation of reward. She showed them how to notice when someone struggled, how to offer assistance without diminishing the recipient. And the Velkin warriors, bred for combat, raised in a culture of fierce independence, copied her gestures with surprising gentleness. Kreshak helped a smaller technician reach a high panel. Torval retrieved dropped equipment for an elderly maintenance worker. One by one, the proud predators practiced what humans called simple kindness. Adam finally approached, shaking his head in wonder. Joyce, do you realize what you just did? She watched Kreshak awkwardly pat little Pixon on the head, a gesture he'd clearly learned from observing her. I just helped a kid reach a shelf, Adam. No, he said, a smile spreading across his face. You just taught an entire warrior culture that strength and compassion aren't mutually exclusive. That's very human of you. Joyce shrugged, but she couldn't suppress her own smile. Maybe that's what we bring to the coalition. Not the best weapons or the fastest ships. Just the willingness to lift each other up when we can't reach the high shelves. In the cycles that followed, the incident became known throughout the Galactic Coalition as the gesture, the moment when humanity taught the galaxy's warriors that true strength included knowing when to be gentle. The Velkins incorporated it into their culture, creating a new tradition. The reaching ceremony, where warriors pledged to notice those who struggled and offer aid without judgment. And it all began because one human woman couldn't walk past a child in need, even when that child had fur claws and belonged to a species that could snap her in half. Because that, more than anything, was what it meant to be human.